All right, welcome back to another episode of More Than a Mortgage. We are here. I'm here today. I'm Mike Black. I'm here with the one and only
Tom Merritt joining you in the flesh. Ready to go.
Tom. Good to see you today, man.
How are you?
Doing good, man. I got this. I know we don't do any advertisements on here, but this Screaming Freedom from First Form today is really taking it to another level, and I'm digging it, man. How about you?
Nice. I just stick with my good old Joe here. Gets me going in the morning, but maybe we'll try that. What is it? Screaming Evil over there?
I love it, man. Well, we wanted to bring some nuggets for you guys today to talk a little bit about what we are getting a lot of questions on right now. And, believe it or not, this has been probably one of the biggest droughts that we've experienced. Rates where they're at right now and rates being high and clients calling you probably every month, multiple times a month, just asking, hey, is it time for me to refinance? We talked 3 years ago and you told me we would have this done already. I'm like, what's going on? So
it is crazy. I think the market has been one of those that's been really resilient, probably in the wrong way, if you will, in the sense that interest rates went up so high. The thought process is that we'd see interest rates come down, but they haven't. And the reality is refinancing out there is really not something, unless you're in a certain situation where you have to, is happening. I think even in our own branch, we've seen the percentages of refinance drop probably close to around 95% from its height in 2021, which is crazy.
Which the other wild part about it too is and we'll talk about that on the show today, but it's just, I think year over year, you're seeing refinances up.
Yes.
But is it always the right time to do it? I think, when we hit on that today in our show, it's gonna, you got to be careful out there.
100%. I think, the prevailing question across the board is that when do I need to refinance, or when is a good time to refinance? And I think that's something that you and I get questioned probably on a weekly basis. And so here we are. I think it's a great topic to kind of discuss and figure out when should I refi?
Yeah. So again, everybody's got their own tactics and strategies on getting you prepped for it, right? Because we're doing a lot of prep work right now. It's not necessarily the time to refinance for the clients that we're getting prepped, but I think being in that whole pandemic where it was just crazy, and we were walking in the mornings and we had 10 applications in our queue, and we just wanted to we had zero life. I think we learned some lessons from that. So I think the prep work right now is a big deal. Getting people at least in the hopper, prepped. I think we all know rates are going to come down at some point in time, but when is the right time to actually go pull the trigger and do it?
And I think that's kind of an individual situation. I think at the grand scheme of things, it's really recognizing, I'd say there's 3 reasons or main types of refinances out there, or reasons you might do it. We've got what we call a rate and term, which essentially we're looking to lower our interest rate or shorten our term. The second type of refinance would be to cash out, so maybe tapping some of that equity. Lots of different reasons for that. And then the last one might be because we need to change the title. Perhaps there's someone that's on the mortgage and on the title that no longer wants to be on the title, or basically should not be. And so those are kind of the 3 main reasons anyway that we've run into. So in each one of those 3, I think there's different points and different reasons why we may. So most people assume refinancing, or when they talk about it, is I'm going to save money. Well, that's your typical rate and term refinance. And so do you have any kind of rules of thumb, Mike, that you would suggest of, why and when you might do a rate and term refinance?
We talk a lot about, I think and you'll see out there a lot in on social media and whatnot, that 0.5% to 0.75% is the time to do it. But it's not always the case, because everybody's situation is a little bit different. I mean, if you got $1 million loan amount, it's a lot different than a $100,000 loan amount, and the savings could be meaningful to you, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with maybe it's the media, maybe it's just the genre. I mean, it's similar when someone's purchasing. Well, what's your rate? The reality is it's not all about the rate. There are so many things that go into it that it really depends on your personal situation. And that comes true with regards to refinancing as well. Everyone has a different threshold with regards to personal situation and why you want to refinance and what makes sense.
Yeah.
Because And it's crazy. You and I have talked about this many times over the last couple months. We've seen clients of ours come to us and say, hey, I was offered a refinance. I can lower my rate by 0.5% or 0.75%. But what did they have in costs? What have you seen?
We had one the other day. It was a $300,000 loan, and my client reached out to me on and said, hey, this seems like a pretty good deal. And she was paying over $10,000 to buy that rate down. So that's like over 3 points is what we would call those, like to actually buy the rate down. And it's just the recapture period was like 6 or 7 years. It didn't make sense.
Right, because the thought process is that interest rates are going to go down. They're going to come probably pretty slow and much sooner than 6-7 years from now. Yeah. So to pay $10,000 today to save what it was, $100, $150, doesn't make sense.
So I think where you're going with that, so you just got to be careful. Like, you got to have like someone that you trust.
Yes.
That's going to actually sit down with you and look at the big picture and show you the charts and show you what interest rates are doing, and
talk through your personal situation.
Correct.
And again, this is the underlying theme I think that we've come across from the start is you need a trusted consultant, somebody that's going to sit down with you, ask you the right questions to figure out what is your situation, what is your goal, what are you trying to accomplish, so you can see whether or not something might make sense.
Yeah, totally. And another thing that we're seeing a lot of right here in Chicago is just the taxes going up.
Yeah.
So I got client right now, as we're like speaking, that we're working on, where the refinance might save them $100 to $125 a month. It's not bad, but their taxes went up, so they have the shortage in their escrow account. And in actuality, their payment went up like $600-700 a month.
Yes.
So, and they don't necessarily have the means to like go and pay the shortage amount. So that to them is like a reset to help them like get rid of that shortage and save at the same time with the refinance. And it's the savings on it's going to be $600-700. Is that an actual savings? It is in payment, but it gets them out of a situation that they're in right now where that could just continue to snowball with the taxes going up on their property.
Absolutely. And again, everyone's situation is different, and just having a blind 0.5% lower, I'm going to refinance regardless of the cost, doesn't make sense. So again, for the rate and term refinance, I think ultimately there are those that may have purchased back in October of 2023 when rates were 8%. Yes. Could that make sense? Absolutely. But someone who may have purchased in the last 6 months, probably not.
Yeah.
If you're just solely trying to reduce the interest rate or potentially the term.
Yep.
The other thing I think we run into a lot, or at least I've started to more and more, which, maybe a little bit of judge of the where the economy is people looking to tap some of that equity. We've had a run the last 3 years with regards to increasing value. So a lot of people's wealth is tied up in their homes. And the way that you would access some of that would be, in some cases, a cash out refinance. In other cases, maybe a second mortgage. But the cash out refinance, why would someone cash out and get some of that equity?
I mean, there's a multitude of reasons, but I think first and foremost, what comes to my mind is paying off debt. We just did a refinance for a client recently that had probably $120,000 in high interest credit card debt.
And we're talking like 20% plus probably.
Right. And it's, we were taking them from like a 3.5% to his scenario was unique, but like an 8.25%. But it made complete sense because he was paying 25% across the board on his credit cards. Wow. We were able to save him like a couple grand a month.
Yeah.
So that's
which is huge.
That's a one thing that comes to my mind, because we're always examining the credit reports and making sure that everybody's debt situation was, palatable.
Yeah.
And in this case, we were able to help him out. Another thing I think of is, investing. Taking cash out to invest. Maybe it's either sometimes it could be with your financial advisor. Sometimes it could be buying another property.
Sure.
I think we had an example too where we had a client that actually went out and bought a multifamily with some cash out that they took, and now their tenants were paying rent, which was not only taking care of the mortgage for the investment property, but it was tapping into paying for some of their house on their primary residence too. So it was like a win-win across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think both those are great ones. One that I've been running into a lot is someone, because of kind of the shortage of inventory and the lack of availability of homes, renovations. So people putting on additions to their current home need the cash or want to tap the equity. And so kind of look at it as an investment to a certain extent, because you're basically taking the cash that you have or the equity you have in your home and investing in the home. It's only going to increase the value. So maybe adding another bedroom, maybe a living area, a combination of both, really helps with the value of the home, but also you're not necessarily coming out of whether it be your current assets that have grown as well, and paying some type of capital gains, or tapping into maybe a 401k, but using that equity in your home and using it tax deductible, as well as increasing the value.
I mean, that's been like what they call creating your own inventory.
Yeah,
Right? Typically, you wouldn't have to go out there and get into the bidding wars with everyone else. You just go out there and put an addition onto your house, or maybe you wanted that pool that you've always wanted.
Sure.
And, those are ways that we can
Quality of life.
we could do that. There's other ways that we could tap in with home equities, but just having that evaluation, I think, is key to what fits your needs financially, is where you're going with all that too.
Absolutely. I think the last one with cashing out or tapping into the equity that I've seen is maybe life events. So, kids going off to college, I mean, holy smokes, you're almost there. Oh, man, we've started these college tours and we're going to these different universities, and obviously dating myself, but I don't know that even room and board would be covered by even just my full 4 years of college for one semester. It's getting ridiculous out there. So, tapping some of that equity, whether it's for that, or the other big thing I've seen is potentially for weddings. Weddings is also, they've gone up quite a bit in terms of cost. So it's a way for you to not, again, have to potentially tap into or pay some type of capital gains on investments and cashing out of stocks and bonds and retirement funds. Instead, maybe utilizing some of that equity, again, whether through that cash out refinance or some type of a home equity.
I love that. A lot of people don't think about that, but I mean, I think we covered it on a previous episode maybe, but I think the average household in the United States right now has about $310,000 worth of equity. So it's to utilize your home as, I don't want to say an ATM machine, but an ATM machine to help you pay for some of these life events is like clutch, man.
Yeah, and I've heard the term, and I agree, using it as an ATM, if you will, but I think it really depends. I think the ATM would be more, in my opinion, something like, going out there and using it for just everyday life things, which I don't necessarily, I mean, again, it is what it is and you need what you need, but I think it's a little different when you're looking at a huge investment, whether that's a renovation of a home, whether that's maybe investing in your future, maybe it's paying for that wedding, or it's a one-off thing, as opposed to when you're using it to go get DoorDash so that you can have lunch. It's probably not the best use of your funds.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the actual, because this is, I think, where most people fall into, if I had to put a finger on it, with the rates being as high as they are. I think most people are looking to, how do I save money right now? And so when you're looking at, I mean, we can go down the line and you can do the same thing on a cash out refinance, but when does it actually make sense? Like, how do you weigh the cost versus the savings? Like, what do you tell your clients right now that are considering it, and whether it's, the recapture makes any sense?
I mean, I think that's a great question. And again, everyone's personal situation is different. And so it really depends, where are you and where are you looking to go? Where are your goals? Questions such as, how long are you going to be in this house? What are the costs associated with it? What are you trying to, again, similarly, had a client I talked to yesterday, and they've got, quite a bit of equity in the home, looking to refinance, but they're merely looking to lower the monthly obligation. Just they've had some things that have happened. They're in a situation where their taxes have gone up similarly, and they just need the cash flow. So they're looking to actually put some additional equity into the home just to bring down that monthly obligation. So, to almost have a general rule of thumb is tough. I think what we need to look at is, okay, what is the goal? Are we trying to lower the monthly obligation? Are we trying to shorten the term? What are the underlying circumstances? And then where are the interest rates relative to where you are, and how does that equate to your monthly obligation?
Yeah.
And then what's the cost to do it?
Yeah.
And you bring up that break even. Again, if you're going to save $150, but it's going to cost you, $15,000, that break even, or that
in 10 years
to recoup, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's 10 years. Whereas if you could get a no closing cost loan and save $100, maybe that makes sense for you in your current.
And I think the easy formula for those that are out there watching right now, the easy formula is to just take the cost divided by your savings, and that tells you your break even.
The number of months.
Yeah, it's that simple. So going back to the client that I told you where we did all the credit card payoffs, it saved them $2,000 a month. his break even with his cost associated with the loan was like literally 3 months.
3 months is a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yes.
And so like, I think at that point, like, you know, when you can show people what that looks like, and a break even just basically means that this is the month that after 3 months, I'm going to start saving $2,000 a month.
Yes.
And that's important to know, because like you said earlier, 10 years, like chances are you're not going to have that, you're going to be out of the house in 10 years.
Yes.
So, you know, you really got to weigh all that stuff out. Now, I hear a lot of people like, I want to get the lowest rate, right? I was on Instagram the other day and I saw this advertisement for a 5.5%. And talk a little bit about that. Like, where's that? We call it, what is it? I don't want to call it clickbait, but it's like the online bait trap is what we like to call that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, they're just trying to get you in those. I don't know.
Like, let me rephrase the question. How do you like shop? Like, what are you looking for when you shop for a mortgage? Like, how do you know you're getting the right deal?
Well, I think we as society focus primarily on interest rate. And don't get me wrong, interest rate has a piece of that puzzle, but there's so many other things that are associated with it. The closing costs, the APR, which brings that into account so you can see it as a percentage. Both of those are huge to understand. And obviously comparing that to your current situation to see where it is and is this beneficial for you? Does it make sense?
Yeah. So just, there's a lot of times what we're seeing out there is people are being quoted with like 1 to 2 to 3 points.
Yes.
And, while rate is a feeling, and rate's a feeling, right? It's like, it feels good to have a lower rate. Like, they overlook the fact that they paid so much to get it. And what lenders are doing and what I'm seeing out there is they're just burying it into the closing costs. Hey,
yes,
you got enough equity in your place. It's not a big deal. You're not going to pay anything out of pocket. We're just going to sweep it into your loan.
And that is a misnomer, and you need to make sure, is it a true low cost or no closing cost loan, or are they just increasing your loan amount? Because I've seen that many times as well. So what they'll do is, you have a $250,000 loan outstanding. The closing costs are going to be 20 grand. So what they say is, hey, we can do this for no closing costs, but your new loan's 270. They didn't really do that for no closing costs. They just rolled those in there. Right. And at the end of the day, do you really want to take $20,000 of your equity to lower your interest rate by 1% to save $100, $200? Like, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. Like, because that's another myth. I know we did a myth buster last time, but like, I hear clients say, we want to do our purchase with you, but the other lender was offering a no closing cost refinance.
Yeah.
I know it technically does exist, but how does that work? Because I always laugh when I hear that, because there's nothing, we don't do loans for free.
No, there is a cost to do anything really at the end of the day. Nothing in life is free. That was one thing I learned when I think I was 6 years old. My dad told me. The way that, again, just straight up, the way that it works is we get a whole list of interest rates every single day, denominated by 0.1%. And at every 0.1%, there's a different cost or a different credit. So ultimately, if you want a no closing cost loan, you're basically going to get a little bit of a higher interest rate, and the credit is going to pay for their costs.
So lender premium credit.
Yeah.
So anytime you hear that there's a no closing cost, just for those of you that are listening, it just means you're getting a higher interest rate. And I think it's important to have that transparent conversation so that it's not like you're pulling the wool over somebody. You're actually being transparent. Like,
and
it might make sense, complete sense. But here's what a no closing cost looks like, and here's what it looks like if you paid full closing cost, and it might be 1/4 to 3/8 of a point lower,
which is fine, especially in a decreasing interest rate market. Perhaps you're going to do this again. So now you have I think it makes sense. Whereas you just need to be aware of what's happening, and not necessarily get, again, confused by the terms perhaps, or, taken for a ride.
So I want to touch on one more thing, and before we wrap up here today, on just how the right way to do a refinance. Like, and what do I mean by that? Like, going back to what we talked about with my client where we saved him $2,000 a month, he still had probably 40 or 50K worth of, it might have been a little less than that, but he still had credit card debt that we weren't able to fit into the refinance. So I showed him how to take that savings and shift it over towards paying off the remainder of his credit card debt, which he could have done in like 12 months. And then from there, it was going to save him like almost $3,800 a month. And so he's in his 40s, and I showed him how you can take that from that point forward. In about a year, you'll be able to take $3,800 a month if you get with a good financial advisor, and they can invest at a 9 or 10% return on your investment, which is like the S&P 500, right?
Yeah.
I showed him by the time he was retired, he could have like almost $2.6 million in the bank.
How many online lenders do that?
None. I don't think. Maybe there's a couple, but like, if you're just going to do a refinance and then save money and then go back to living your life the way you're living your life, I think that's the wrong way to do it.
I agree.
I think the right way to do it is to put it towards something, whether it be towards retirement or a college fund, or, you know, take that money and put it to use so that it's either going to grow on you or it's going to save you for, like you said earlier, a big life event down the road. That's how I've always done a refinance, because I'm already used to making those payments.
Yes.
All I'm doing is tweaking my budget a little bit to put it somewhere else.
Now, obviously, there are certain situations where life events happen. Maybe you lose a job, or maybe there's certain expenses that are coming up, kids going to college, things of that nature, that perhaps you lower that monthly obligation and utilize the funds to cover that. I think is more along the lines of what you're saying. Invest it. Utilize it. Don't just go back to what you're doing.
Yes.
Because if you go back to what you're doing, we're going to see you in another 2-3 years in the same situation that you were before. And the reality is, you're never going to get ahead. You're never going to create that wealth. You're never going to.
And that's really using it towards like an ATM machine. If you do back to living your life like you normally were. So like, you know, if you're paying off cards, cut them off, cut them up, get rid of them. Like, there's a reason that you got out of the troubles first, you know, from the get-go when someone helped you like myself. But cut them up. Don't go back to the bad habits. Like, you know, sit down, know your budget, put your money somewhere where it's going to do something for you. Like, I genuinely care about my clients being able to retire and live comfortably.
Yes.
And not be strapped to the wall where it's just like, oh my gosh, this credit card debt's like, I've been there before. I've been in that debt before. And it's like, it's tough to get out of, right?
Absolutely.
So
I think kind of, you know, if we're doing overall recap, and we didn't hit much on the changing of title, but to summarize everything, I think the reality is rate and term refinance, cash out refinance, or changing the title. That's when maybe perhaps you're going through a divorce and this former spouse, you need to take off the loan, take off the title. Perhaps you've inherited a property, you know, or someone passed away, and obviously removing the title. You know, those are basically the last set of reasons, and those are completely dictated by circumstance in terms of where things are. But so when does it make sense? I think everyone's situation is different.
Yeah.
And really it comes down to, and then I'll let you kind of close on where your thoughts are, but it comes down to taking a step back, recognizing what is the goal, and then sitting down with someone you trust in this profession that can help you figure out, does it make sense based off what your goals are, so that you can make an informed decision.
Totally. Yeah, I think the key, what you said there, is having a face-to-face, you know, sit down, a consultation is what we call it.
100%.
You know, doing an in-depth analysis on your situation, because everybody's situation is different, and $150 to you might not be $150 to someone else, but it may make sense and it may not make sense. But being in that like queue, having everything teed up, having someone watching the rate drops when they come through, having someone following up with you and telling you that the market shifted, you know, that's where the trusted advisor, I think, comes into play. And whoever that is for you, it's like people say, when I find a good mortgage person, I'm going to stick with them. Or when I find a good realtor like that I trust, I'm going to stick with them, that gives me good advice. It really starts with who's putting you in the right position to win.
100%. And if you have any questions about it, if you've been quoted or you have a loan estimate that has a breakdown and you're confused and don't necessarily understand whether it makes sense, please don't hesitate to reach out. More than happy to at least help you decipher it and understand what the situation is, that you can, again, make that informed decision to see if it's right for you.
Guys, thanks for tuning in today. Follow us on Instagram, More Than a Mortgage, Facebook, YouTube. You know, if there's any questions that you have, drop them in the comments. We'd be happy to address those for you. But great episode. This is something that we're hearing a lot of right now, and I just, it's pertinent. It's definitely pertinent, and it's definitely of the times because everybody's out there. I think cringing right now.
Yeah, and I only think it's going to get more. So this should go well.
And I'm Mike Black,
And I'm Tom Merritt.
and we're more than a mortgage.